and I want to start specifically on the questions of immigration and of their absolute defiance of court orders, large and small, both in the mass deportations to El Salvador of a lot of these Venezuelans who are allegedly part of TDA, and the Khalil case and other cases where they are plucking people with green cards and legal residency out and shipping them off
Yeah.
for things that are not criminal, but that they find ideologically unacceptable.
It is truly chilling. It's Ramadan right now, Rick, and
Right.
a lot of Muslims getting together in the evenings for events. I've been to a few events recently. The only topic of conversation right now in brown communities is, have you got a plan B? Where do we go? What happens if this shit continues to hit the fan? If the fascism that we all warned about and were worried about becomes very real, which it seems to be by the day. We're
Right.
speaking on a day, guys, where Donald Trump has posted saying the judge should be impeached, Boasberg, who ruled against him on the Venezuela El Salvador case, because he's a crook, apparently. Because he ruled against him. We're living. First of all, I know all three of us have played this game. It's a frustrating game, but let's play it anyway. Can you imagine if Joe Biden had said Samuel Alito should be impeached? He's a crook
Right.
after the Dobbs decision. People would have
Right.
lost their minds. But we now live in a world where you know this better than me. We've normalized Trump. We grade him on a curve, so he can just say impeach a crooked judge, and it won't even be the top story on the network news tonight. But that is where we are, and it is truly chilling that people now have to live in fear, not just as immigrants on student visas or H-1Bs, but also green card holders, but also citizens. In Chicago, we just learned that
Yep.
a Latino man was pulled off the street, pulled into a detention center, held overnight for 10 hours, born and brought up in the United States, not even a naturalized citizen, a citizen.
Right.
And they're willing to hold these people. So we are in a very dark place, because if you accept the argument from the Trump administration that there's no due process for people, then what is to stop them from going after citizens and green card holders and political enemies? Because by definition, all we have is their say so. And the United States of America's entire constitutional system was built on the basis that you don't just take the president's say so for something.
Correct. I think that idea that waving the magic wand of declaring anyone a terrorist and saying I have unlimited power now outside of any judicial framework is a singularly dangerous way for a president to behave.
It is more dangerous than domestically than anything I can think of in my lifetime. Look, I am someone who Republicans accuse of having TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, right? I am someone who's been warning about Trumpian fascism since his first term. I am someone who spent most of last year saying, if he wins this election, will it be our last free and fair election? But even me, even I did not see where we'd be in month 2 or whatever it is of this presidency. Dog years, feels like we're 17 years in. We're about 50
I'm
something days
exhausted
in.
by it already.
Not just exhausted, but what they've pulled off. Donald Trump is a liar. Everything he says is a lie. But what he said in his joint address to Congress was true. He said, we have done more in our first 4 weeks than most presidents get done in 4 years. And he's right about that, I'm sorry to say. He
Sure.
has done more in terms of damage, in terms of undermining our Constitution, in terms of wrecking the federal government. What he's doing to the federal bureaucracy, Ronald Reagan could never have dreamt of over 8 years. What Musk and his
Right.
libertarian, Ayn Rand, racist kids are doing is on a level I've never seen a Republican Party do before. So he's right about that. And I think that is someone like me who warned against Trump. Even I didn't think this. And by the way, you've all seen the Politico story with Paul Dans, the architect of Project 2025, saying yesterday, this is beyond my wildest dreams. So the people who love him and the people who hate him, we're all saying the same thing. Wow, this has gone beyond anything we even imagined.
So, let me ask you an unanswerable question. What are we going to be talking about in a month? Well, how do you think this is going to play out?
So
who's
very hard to
firewood in the ruins?
very hard to predict what will happen by Saturday, let alone in a month's time. Given all the craziness. I mean, these are the masters of flooding the zone, right? Steve Bannon has made it very clear that flooding the zone is their strategy. That days of thunder, I think he calls it now, and they're right about that. That's what they're doing. They're overwhelming us. We're looking at home at what's happening to Mahmoud Khalil. Meanwhile, they're bombing Yemen and starting new wars in the Middle East, and Netanyahu's back to genociding in Gaza with Trumpian support. Remember, he ran in Michigan saying Liz Cheney's a warmonger. I'm going to be the candidate of peace. Here he is starting multiple new conflicts all over the world. So I don't know where we're going to be in a month. Are we going to be in a position where Russia has overrun more parts of Ukraine? Are we
Hmm.
going to be in a position where the Palestinians are actually being physically driven out of Gaza? Are we going to be in a position where US citizens are being rounded up, not just green card holders? Are we going to be in that moment where the Supreme Court rules, perhaps against him, unlikely, but you never know? Amy Coney Barrett could save the Republic. If the Supreme Court rules against him, if Roberts and Barrett go with the three liberals and say, you've gone too far, does Trump ignore the
Right.
Supreme Court? And remember, JD Vance has been saying this for years. People, because we have such a shitty media, no one covered what JD Vance said 2 years ago when he said, if Donald Trump asked for my advice, I would say, ignore the court, ignore the Supreme Court, ask them, what army do you have?
Hmm.
He said that, Vance. That was when he was just a senator, junior senator from Ohio. Now he's the vice president. So if they ignore the Supreme Court, I don't know where that leaves American democracy, Stuart. I don't know where that leaves the public. I don't know where that leaves the right to protest. I mean, one thing we haven't seen in the Trump era so far is the kind of mass protests we saw in term one. There are many reasons for that. Whether that changes anytime soon, because if we do get mass protests, then the question is, how does Trump respond? How does the National Guard respond? What does he federalize? What does Kash Patel and the FBI do? There's all sorts of
Hmm.
knock-on effects from
Yeah,
that as well.
I think it's really worth looking back at a little history here because I was shocked that Tom Cotton spoke out yesterday saying how outrageous it was that we actually basically had three divisions of government, and the courts actually could have an opinion. So if Tom Cotton, Arkansas, cut to 1957, Arkansas, after Brown versus Board of Education, uh, the governor, Faubus, who actually had sort of a moderate liberal background, was probably doing this to head off any charges that he wasn't a segregationist. He called out the Arkansas National Guard to block the integration of the largest public high school in Little Rock, Central High School,
Right.
successfully. So what did the president do then? He called out the fucking 101st Airborne and sent them.
Hmm.
And then he federalized the Arkansas National Guard, and they were able to integrate. So
Well,
that worked. It's
the president was an anti-American communist named Eisenhower.
exactly
You know that
that thing.
noted progressive Eisenhower.
Yeah.
Now it's sort of a note that gets lost, except if kind of from this part of the world. Faubus shut down every public school in Little Rock for a year as a reaction to that.
Hmm.
It's still referred to as the lost year in there. But you know, when you have the federal government against the National Guard, as Earl Long, who was governor of Louisiana, Huey Long's brother, said when a segregationist was saying that Huey should send the National Guard and the Highway Patrol to block federal troops from encouraging integration. He said, well, this guy's name was Leander Perez. He's a great Cajun character, segregationist. He said, well, that's fine, Leander, but what are you going to do now if the feds have the nuke? So,
I mean,
I mean,
we're in a reverse position right now
you're in
because
a reverse
then
position.
it was the federal
Exactly.
government coming in to stop racist and anti-democratic Southern governors.
Right.
Now we're in a position where the only people that can stand up to Trump are Democratic AGs who are taking him to court, state AGs, and Democratic governors like the Pritzkers of this world. And I think that's where somebody I follow on Twitter, his name is Brandon Friedman, he's a Democratic Party
Sure.
operative,
Hmm.
veteran. He made a very good point where he said, I hope governors, blue state governors, are having meetings with their National Guard folks right now. I hope lines of communication are open. I hope relationships are good because that is going to be the next test of the system. If Trump comes in,
100%.
federalizes the Guard, insists that they work for him or not, or if, and again, we have a shitty media, so no one really covered this very well. Stephen Miller said very openly last year, I think to the New York Times, and it got lost in all the other shit. He said, what we will do if we were looking for an immigrant that we want to take out, and it's, for example, Maryland, it's Westmore's Maryland, has someone we want, we will send in the Virginia Guard from next door. We will send in the Republican Guard. that would mean that Wesmore's blue National Guard would be up against Virginia's red National Guard. I think that's what they
Yeah,
call a civil war in the
yeah.
old days,
I
right?
just
I,
saw this. I just saw this on a plane coming back from Europe, and it was called the Civil War,
Yes, there's
which actually
literally a
is.
movie. Yeah.
I found it a shockingly good film, as an aside. Um, you know that I think that one of the great lessons we've had to learn here is how much of our system of government was based upon goodwill
Yes.
sure.
and some mutual agreement of some constraints that would apply. Um, and the Republican Party could stop all this.
Oh,
If Republican Party unified, if the majority of senators, majority of congressmen went out and said, no, we're going to protect the Constitution, we took an oath, but
yeah,
they're going the other
that's done,
way.
Stuart. You guys' former party is done. I think this conversation of the Republican Party could stop this is a 2017 to 2021 conversation. It is not a conversation for
100%.
2025. This
And
party is all in on Trump. Yes, Chuck Schumer may meet some guy in the Senate gym in his shorts who tells him that I'm
Oh,
really upset
oh,
about Trump. And Schumer may then go and tell the New York Times credulously that I met a guy in the Senate gym who says he's
oh.
really unhappy with Trump. But in the real world, the rest of us inhabit outside of the Senate gym. The Republican Party is not complicit in this, is not hijacked, is not
it's
taken over.
definitional.
It is the MAGA party. It is the Trump party. Again,
There's
they
no,
lie a
I,
lot. They lie a lot, but Don Jr. was not lying when he said, this is the MAGA party. It's our party now. It is.
yeah,
I think it's important for folks listening. Mehdi's exactly right. Stuart's exactly right. This is they kept the branding and the logo and the name Republican, but this is uh, an overtly fascist party now, driven by racial and ethnic animus and religious animus that believes in a very narrow gauge Christian nationalist philosophy, and they are doing exactly what they told us they would do, and they're executing on it because there are no guardrails in their minds. Another one. You mentioned Kash Patel. Another one is Tom Homan, who's out there basically saying we're
Oh,
going to ignore the court. We're just going to do
yeah.
what we want to do. We're coming.
I mean, Tom Homan,
And
you've got again. Sorry, this in this call, I'm finding myself saying things. I keep saying Trump is telling the truth. Don Jr. is saying the truth. I'm killing myself.
right.
I'm gonna have to take a shower after this. But let me say this. Let me praise Trump. Trump is the man who likes to cast. Remember, he hires people out of central casting, right? He
Sure.
hires a general because he looks like a general. Jim Mattis looked like a tough general, so he
Right.
hired him. He's a master of. He's incompetent at many things, but he understands the TV game. Tom Homan is out of central casting for Border Czar. If I was to
Right.
invent a fascist Border Czar and get a sketch artist to draw him, he would draw Tom Homan, right? The body language, the facial expressions, the way he talks, the shit he says, the threatening of AOC, the ignoring of the judges. Tom Homan is right there as the kind of fascist front man, the ex-ICE guy, who is saying basically, I don't care about courts, I don't care about states' rights, I don't care about governors, I don't care about members of Congress's rights. What did he say the other day in Albany? He said free speech has limitations, which is ironic because you claim to be the free speech party for years, and Elon Musk claims to be
Right.
free speech absolutist. But now apparently green card holders don't have free speech, even though the Supreme Court said in 1945 green card
Right.
holders are entitled to the First Amendment. Number
Hmm.
two, the way he says it, it's not even some philosophical, what are the limits of free speech? It is very much a watch what you say, watch
Yeah.
out. It is very threatening and intimidating, and that's what Trump likes. That's why he hired him.
yeah. Deporting this doctor because she had pictures on her iPhone of and attended some ceremony for Hezbollah. I mean, really,
Again,
this is what
again,
it's.
if it's all true, my position is try these people. You don't even
Well,
like. I can't
but
believe
you're not gonna. We're not
we're
going to
back.
reach up. We're not reaching a point in the United States where if you have a sympathetic picture of someone in Hezbollah, you're entitled to have a. You're entitled to that opinion. I disagree.
I was told in 2013. I have a long memory, unfortunately. I know a lot of people in the US media have memories of goldfish. I in 2013 was living in the UK, and the
Hmm.
biggest story in the world was Charlie Hebdo. Every Western media outlet
Sure.
said, "Je suis Charlie." Muslims were told, "Shut the fuck up. This is Western civilization. We get to make fun
Hmm.
of your prophet. This is what it's all about." Voltaire, disagree with you what you say, defend your death, blah 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 blah. Patronizing crap from conservatives and liberals to minority communities saying, Just this is what makes us Western. Suddenly, years later, we're being told, hold on, you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't offend this, you can't offend America, you can't criticize the president. I'm like, hold on, what the hell is going on here? Yes, you don't have to agree with the speech of people at Columbia or anywhere else. But the First Amendment gives very broad rights to, including hate speech, by the way. And I come from, I'm an immigrant. I've been an American citizen for 5 years. I come from the UK, where the free speech laws are different.
Right.
America does
Sure.
have more free speech in its First Amendment. That's what something Americans used to brag about. Now we have Homan saying limitations. We have people going after, whatever your affiliations are, and no one even wants to test this shit in a court of law. To go back to Stuart's original point,
Right.
the crisis we're in right now for the last 72 hours is that we are saying that the president of the United States can point at a bunch of brown people with tattoos and say, you are terrorists and gang members. I'm going to send you to my friend in El Salvador who's going to put you hard to work in a labor camp indefinitely.
In a for-profit labor
The
camp
full
work.
propaganda.
Yeah.
And there will be no judicial review. There will be no court case. There will be no testing of the evidence. You have to take Donald Trump and Caroline Levitt's word for it. That I don't. If you, I mean, we cannot live in a country like that. That is insane.
It is.
You know,
It is.
I think about a scenario. If you go back to your Virginia National Guard versus Maryland National Guard, Trump would tell everyone in the Virginia National Guard, "I will pardon you
Yes.
Sure.
if you whatever you do here. If you have a gun battle
100%.
here and you
I
kill
don't think he even needs to say it, Stuart. The expectation is already out there.
and that's what they've allowed to happen when there was no opposition at all, no outcry, when he pardoned the cop beaters, the worst of the worst of January 6th.
Hmm.
Even J.D. Vance said the day before, well, I mean, he's not going to do that. And then, of
Yeah,
course, he
Pam
did.
Bondi. Pam Bondi
Right.
said it in
Pam
her
Bondi,
Senate
Pam
hearing.
J.D. Vance.
Bondi.
Yep.
In fact, apparently his own staff said it to him, and according to I think Axios, he said, "Fuck it, release them all."
Yep.
Yeah. And
I heard from inside the White House that the most shocked person of all was Susie Wiles, who who had told other people, no, we're not doing that. We might case by case a few small ball ones here and there, little old ladies or what have you, but his own chief of staff had no idea this was coming.
Second most powerful person in Washington.
yeah,
So
right.
yeah,
Well, look,
okay.
before we go, man, tell me what does Zeteo mean? Is that the correct pronunciation? Zeteo?
Zeteo is an ancient Greek
Zeteo.
word. Zeteo is an ancient Greek word going back to the time of Socrates and Plato, which means to seek out, to inquire, to struggle to find the truth. And when we were trying to come up with a name, my colleagues and I, for our new media company, which is coming up to our first birthday in April, we're nearly a
Congrats.
year old. Time flies, unfortunately. And a year ago, we were trying to come up with a name. We thought, what better name than this one? Because we are living in a world where, to go back to Kellyanne Conway, there's alternative facts, there's people making up their own news and truth. The reality based universe is under assault. And therefore, if we're going to be a media organization, we are going to go out and we are going to struggle to get to the bottom of things. And also, it's not just a critique of the Trumpy era we live in, guys. It's a critique, as you well know and you share, I know, of our liberal media, which doesn't want to search for the truth,
Yeah.
that doesn't
Liberal.
actually want to find out what is true and false, simply
Yeah.
wants to be stenographers, simply want to repeat. Even now, the White House says. That phrase has no meaning, yet reporters use it as if it carries any kind of authority. The White House says, the
They,
DOJ said. We must stop just simply repeating what the people in power say when the people in power have spent 10 years lying to us. And look, the philosophy of Zeteo, and I've said this before, is the philosophy of saying the truth. If somebody's a racist, you say racist. You don't say he may be racially tinged. They may be
right.
racially divisive. You say racist. You say fascist. You don't run away from these words. And the
Right.
job of a journalist, as the saying goes, if Mr. X says it's raining outside, Mr. Y says it's not raining outside. The job of a journalist is not to say X says it's raining, Y says it's not raining. The job of a journalist is to open the fucking window and see if it's raining outside.
How do you tell both sides of a lie? So how do people find you when they want to?
So we're on
They're in love with
Substack
this. They
like you
want to see
guys are.
more.
We're here having the Substack live, but the website's very easy. It's zeteo.com, Zeteo. We've even got merch. We're a real media company. We've got
That's very
merchandise.
cool. Very cool.
That's what makes
That's
us
the
real.
test,
Not
man.
winning,
That's
not
the test.
Yeah, not winning. We won an
Exactly.
award. We won an award for our new podcast, but that doesn't matter. It's the merchandise that really
It's the
makes it a real,
merch.
that makes it a real media
Get the
company.
shirt, people.
But
See, you have become an American now. So
but
this
yes,
is this.
very much so. Very much so. So very that's very American of me to have the merch.
You know
Three and
what?
a,
God
there's
bless capitalism.
There are three. Look at me. I'm saying God bless capitalism in a call with two former Republicans. I would have laughed if you told me that 10 years ago. 3,500 people watching this. So yes, do follow everyone on this call. You can do it on the app. The beauty of the Substack Live is you can just click it on your app, follow all of
Couldn't be
three of us.
easier, folks.
Follow the Lincoln Square guys. Follow Zeteo. Follow people who are standing up to the shit that is happening right now. Somebody said in the call, somebody Schumer, not Chuck Schumer, but somebody Schumer said in the call, what do we do? I think it was Wendy Schumer. I saw in the comments, and I would say,
Yeah.
look, as a first step, support each other. Right? Stick with like-minded people. Stick around people who believe in citizenship, in American principles, in the Constitution, in the rule of law, in a free and independent press. So support those of us in independent media who are trying to hold the line while Washington Post and Bezos roll over, while Meta and Zuckerberg roll over, while
Right.
CNN and Mark Thompson roll over. Support those of us who are actually having these difficult conversations about the shit show we're living through.
Real
Yeah.
talk, my friend. Thank you, Mehdi, so much for coming on today. Really appreciate
Thanks so
everything
much.
you do, and keep at it. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks,
Talk
guys.
to you
Keep fighting
soon.
the good
Thanks so
fight.
much,
Thanks,
buddy.
everyone.
And
Bye
folks,
bye.
we'll see you back here in just about 20 minutes, 25 minutes with Katie Fang. All right.
I, I don't know how. I suppose.